contract negotiations for over 3 years now, and United is making record-breaking profits, and it's time that they negotiate in good faith with us, and we have a contract and we operate this airline as one instead of three. Today we have we're doing a joint picketing event with the Teamsters. They're in the same position that we are, and we want to show the airline that we have strength and determination and solidarity, and that's why we're out here today with our brothers and sisters from the Teamsters. Well, you know, we took pay cuts in bankruptcy, and you know, we are the frontline workers, and we are part of the reason why this airline is still in business and survives. So it's about time that we are no longer in pre-bankruptcy wages. Oh my gosh, the company's making record-breaking profits. I mean, they're making more money despite themselves than they've ever made. So it's time they share the rewards with the employees, the frontline workers. We are the reason, you know, the traveling public comes back. No, we don't have pensions. Nope. That was something that we lost in bankruptcy, and that's why it's time for the company to reward us and show the respect that we deserve. Well, you know, our pensions belong to the PBGC at this point, but it's not easy. That's why a lot of us aren't retired. It's time. It's time for them to negotiate in good faith with us. It's time. And that's why we're revving it up even more with the Teamsters today. Over 3 years. Well, not a contract. We have been in negotiations for over 3 years. Our contract is amendable, and the Teamsters contract is amendable. I don't have any comment on that. Well, absolutely we do. We have to go through negotiations in good faith. If we get to a point where we feel that we're not getting anywhere, then we ask for a 30-day cooling off, and then after that, we do have the right to strike. It should show them that, you know, we're willing to stand behind each other, and they need to start bargaining in good faith. And we need these contracts, and we need to move forward.
Good job, good job. Let's keep it up. We're fired up, won't take no more. Fired up, won't take no more.
My name is Scott Abrahamson. I work in the machine shop at the maintenance base for United. We're out here showing solidarity for the flight attendants because we're in the same position as they are with our contract negotiations. We voted no down. We voted the proposal down because it was a terrible proposal. It had many concessions in it. And we're out here showing support in that. We're not going to roll over. We're going to fight for what we deserve, fight to regain what was taken from us during our bankruptcy. And so here we are in this beautiful day to picket and let our CEO know that we mean business.
How much have you lost over the last 20 years?
I don't know. Losing the ESOP was over 100 grand.
You lost personally 100 grand?
Yeah, with the ESOP shares that they had to end up selling them. I guess they were down to a couple dollars a share during the bankruptcy era. We've lost so much, I don't even know what the dollar amount is. I don't think I want to know because it may make me cry.
and your pensions, what's your situation with your pension?
We don't have one. When United went through bankrupt, they allowed our pension to go into the red by quite a few $100 million, what I understand. So they gave the government an opportunity to take it over so they would carry the burden so they didn't have to do it.
Are you saying the taxpayer is paying for your pension?
Yes, they are. United gave them a contribution which was pennies on the dollar, and now our pension is through the PBGC.
And what about the profits of United? They made $3.5 billion a year. Why don't they pay back the pension and so you have full pension?
Because it's corporate greed. Bottom line, it's corporate greed. They gave us a proposal, it was a final offer. They said take it or leave it. They were stringing us along during the negotiations. We were making progress. And then at the last minute, they said, here it is. We're done. So it was concessions. They wanted us to pay for our medical. You know, medical is a big deal. And with the proposal that we offered them, it was almost a cost-neutral proposal where the company's saving money, we reap the benefits, but they chose not to do that. They wanted to accept the savings and charge us 20%. That's wrong. There's no reason for it because they have the money to do it.
So what is it? Why are they doing this to you?
It's corporate greed. They want to rape and pillage. They want to keep the profits the way it is because they're greedy. We're the ones that keep the planes in the sky. We have to do drug testing. We have to have background checks. We have our stamp from the FAA that says we're working on the parts. Outside carriers don't have that. We don't have the oversight. The carriers on the outside don't have what we have to deal with. So they want to send our work overseas, save money, because they don't want to pay their wages, they don't want to pay the benefits. There's no oversight over there, and the flying public is at risk.
How long have you worked for United Airlines?
28 years.
What's your job?
I'm a machinist. I'm a union steward, been a machinist the 28 years I've been with United.
All right, guys, we're back together again. Thanks for coming back. I don't know what wall we're on, but let's go to number 3.
My name is Dale Mitchell. I'm the chief steward for airframe maintenance out at the San Francisco maintenance base. I'm with the Teamsters, and we've been trying to get a contract for a long time. The company's stalling. They tried to sell us a contract that everyone voted down by 93%, and majority of our membership voted in that election. And we told them it's not good enough, and we're trying to get back to the table, and they're stalling like usual.
Tracy McCorkle.
What's going on here today?
Today we're coming out in support of the flight attendants. They're going through the same problems we are. This company is making record profits, and right now the two groups, the flight attendants and the mechanics, are the last work groups here at United that haven't had a amalgamated contract. So we're working separately. The flight attendants, the Continental side and the United side can't work together. They have different work rules. They haven't had a contract in over 5 years. On the mechanic side, we have standalone agreements, but we are not amalgamated. We have separate contracts. We cannot work with their mechanics, the Continental side. So you have a divided workforce. I don't know how this is working for United Airlines, but you have two significant groups with divided workforces not working together. We're supposed to be working together to help this company.
What's going on?
Their argument is not that they can't afford to pay. Their argument is that they don't want to pay us, that we are not worth it. And that's hard to explain over all the years of givebacks and everything we've given to this company over all these years. And now they finally have a chance to show good faith and goodwill, and they're refusing.
And last year they made how much profit? $3.5 billion?
Yeah, billions of dollars. Every quarter they are making $1 billion+ record profits, and they just, it baffles my mind that they just want to keep it all for themselves.
And they're pretty arrogant, it seems.
They don't care. They really don't care. They buy back stock to line their own pockets. The company, all these top executives own shares, so the billions of dollars to buy back shares is for themselves, not for the employees, not for the passengers. They don't care about the passengers either, let alone their employees.
So you've got a lot of unhappy workers here and passengers.
It's amazing that we are making money. They make money by mistake. The employees are tired, beat down, and we want to be a good airline. But most people are disgruntled. Even the heavy hitters, I like to call them, that want to go out there and kick butt and take care of business, are disgruntled. Even those, they've abandoned even their heaviest hitters.
And what does that say about the management of the airlines?
It doesn't matter who's in the management team. They come up with a new slogan every time. We're going to work together, whatever it is, but they don't follow through. So it's just words, and we're tired of the words.
How long have you worked for United?
I'm 19 years, and I'm a junior employee at 49 years old.
Carl Finnemore. I'm retired. How you doing, Fred? retired president of the Machinists Local out here at the airport. This is both the flight attendants, AFA, CWA, and the Teamsters who have outstanding contracts protesting, which is great. It accents, it reinforces what they're trying to get at the negotiating table when they have regular, visible protests, mobilizations of the membership at airports all across the country. So that's a good thing. That's something that other unions seldom do. The members are in the dark largely during negotiations until the tentative is reached and they get a chance to read it and they got 10 days to vote. This is different now. I think the
They've been negotiating. How long have they been negotiating?
over 3 years now. They've been negotiating, and the whole time United Airlines has been making super profits, charging outrageous fees, of course, on baggage, on cancellations of flights, all kinds of other things. They're making hundreds of millions of profit just off those extra fees alone, which irritate the heck out of the consumers. So we're hoping that the consumers and the employees can get together, put pressure on United Airlines management to try to come to the table with the first non-concessionary contract in like 20 years. They had nothing but give-backs and take-backs for 20 years, since the early 1990s when they had this phony employee stock ownership deal, which they took 13, 14% of our wages in exchange for stock, which in bankruptcy went belly up, gave us a penny on the dollar for all.
Do you feel they stole your pensions?
Oh, absolutely. They during bankruptcy, they terminated the pensions. They kept the pensions for about 350 of their top managers, but they took it from all the employees. So, fortunately, the Machinists Union went back and got the IAM pension plan, but we're the only workforce at United Airlines that has a pension.
So they can't afford a pension.
Of course they can, because not only are they making unprecedented profits, all the airlines, but United Airlines just alone right after they signed a concessionary contract with the Machinists in 2013, they went and they purchased on the market over $1 billion of their own stock, which even Wall Street analysts recognize as just a speculative sham. It's where they buy back their stock, they take millions of their stock off the market, therefore it inflates the remaining stock value tremendously. Now, if you sign a concessionary contract with the Machinists and then you refuse to sign a contract with the Teamsters and the AFA that is non-concessionary, how can you go and spend $1 billion and pay dividends to your stockholders at the same time? So that's what people are angry about, and they're not putting up with it. Here at United Airlines, as I say, we've had concessionary agreements for over 20 years. When they went in bankruptcy for like 4 years, the longest in corporate history, right after 9/11, they took 21% of our wages, just the Machinists Union alone, 21%. So we have not been at 1990 levels of wages in the Machinist Union until 2013. We finally went up to that level we had briefly, actually, like 15 years ago. But they take it away by charging us outrageous medical. So,
Cost shifting? Is that cost shifting?
pardon me?
Cost shifting? Is that cost shifting?
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's a good word for it. I never heard that. That's pretty good. Cost shifting, yeah. Because that's what's happening. We take it in wages. Oh, good. We got the wages that we had, in 2002. So that would be 11 years ago. Oh, good. We've reached that level that we had 11 years ago that bankruptcy took away. But now it cost shifts. Very good. Cost shifts to medical.
Now, the issue of the Railway Labor Act, how has that affected bargaining and the conditions of airline workers?
Yeah, well, that was brought about in the 1920s, and it was initiated by the railroad owners because there were a number of big strikes in the 1890s, 1877, 1890s, and then the early 90s, which just shut down rail in this country. Now, the railroad barons through the National Guard and other ways, they won all of those strikes, but it would still cost them so much money and so much havoc that they said, we got to rationalize this. So now, updated to now, the Railway Labor Act says you cannot strike unless you get permission from the president and from the, National Mediation Board, which is a process which very seldom allows you to strike. when the IAM in 1966 took out 5 major airlines and shut them down and won a big, good, important contract that made up for concessionary agreements before. Not concessionary, but really low wage increases. Airline workers were really low paid on the spectrum of industrial labor by 1966. So they struck 5 airlines. Congress passed a law. You can't have more than 1 airline on strike at any one time. So that's one law on the books. But now, because the airlines have consolidated with monopolization, there's only like 3 major airlines in the States now. There were 7 or 8, 9, 10 before. They've all consolidated. The government is now telling negotiators, no, you're too big to strike. Wall Street's too big to fail, so they'll bail them out. But the airlines are too big to strike, so they're not going to let you strike.
So deregulation, what effect has that had on the airline industry?
Well, deregulation, even Ted Kennedy, who sponsored it, said it was a big mistake. You deregulate everything, rail, telecommunications. They want to privatize everything in the United States, from education to jails. And what it did in the short term, like for 20 years, you had the appearance that it was cutting prices because you had all kinds of people who had some amount of capital flood the market. These smaller airlines flooded the market and temporarily brought it down. But 20, 30 years later, it's come to pass what everyone knew from labor's point of view would happen. Eventually, they'd all be squeezed out, all these smaller airlines, and there'd be a massive consolidation where the consumer would be held hostage to just a few airlines, and likewise workers too. And that's exactly what's coming to pass now. It took a while, 1970s to now, 30, 40 years, but in the space of history, that's a short time, and you should be able to predict when deregulation happens. Temporarily, they'll flood the market with new people who want to make a buck, but they get bought up, they go out of business, and then consolidation happens. And it's not good for the consumer or workers.
So the situation for airline workers is, despite these record profits, $3.5 billion for United last year, they're taking a hard line. You think people are ready for a strike at United Airlines?
Oh, yeah, I think the Teamsters and AFA are ready to strike. Teamsters just voted 94% to reject the contract, and that was the same vote to give their negotiators the option of striking. But again, it's very difficult to get released by the government. So they say, well, just go back to the table, which of course you take away the only leverage we have, our membership. That's the only voice that employers look at, is if they're mobilized, aware, alert, and if they have the strike option. And you take that away from workers, and you just have very little to negotiate. They do have a new CEO at United who has made claims that he wants to bring everything together, because even industry analysts and him, Munoz is his name, the new CEO, who's just come back from a heart attack, he's come back and said he wants to make peace. He understands morale is low, as the industry analysts do. It's low, and in a service industry, customer service, flight attendants, machinists, baggage handlers, mechanics, you can't have employees that are upset, because it reflects itself unconsciously in production, in work, in how much you produce. United has continuously ranked the lowest of all the airlines in customer complaints, because when you come into contact with workers at United, we can't help but show, I'm sorry, we're not very happy for 20 or 30 years. Anyone who's worked here that long has not had a good contract.
So workers in the United States have declined, their income, real income has declined the last 30 or 40 years. What's the solution? It seems that it's continuing to decline despite the protests that are going on.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the solution cannot be at one negotiating session or one union's bargaining. That's the bad news, because they're just too big. They've grown too large, all the problems of Wall Street and wage inequality, social inequality, injustice, discrimination, all the social, political, economic problems of this country, they merge. And that merging gives us the opportunity. Well, first, that can't all be solved at a negotiating table, but it gives us the opportunity because so many are affected, or I should say disaffected, by what's going on in this country, that labor should lead a broad social anti-austerity movement. Bigger than one union, bigger than negotiations. It's a social movement.
We are trying to get contracts for 2 different groups. For the Teamsters out here, and the Association of Flight Attendants are also out here for United Airlines. So it's been, you know, a combination of coming up on 6 years that we've been trying to get a contract.
6 years. Why does it take so long?
That's what we're trying to figure out ourselves. So we are out here to let people know, the public know, as well as the company know, that we deserve better than what they're offering us at this moment in time. You know, we've given up a lot of concessions over the years, and so we deserve better than what is actually coming down the pipeline from our management.
And how long have you worked for United?
I've worked for United for coming up on 21 years. I will have an anniversary date on April 4th.
Why are we here? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? So what do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it?